Well, why don't we get started with our last presentation here. I am really thrilled to have a number of individuals from Ebenezer. They're going to share with us some of their insights related to creativity, memory loss, and really, again, how to use creativity to maintain personhood and memory loss. Marysue Moses in particular, I've had the pleasure to hear her speak multiple times, just an incredibly dynamic, engaging speaker. And they're doing some really exciting things at Ebenezer around this whole idea of creativity and memory loss. They actually put out a really great documentary called From the Valley of the Heart. I don't know if any of you had a chance to see it. It's a shorter documentary, really, really good though, and really poignant about how they're using creative therapies to engage people with memory loss. And they're going to share with us a very exciting, engaging presentation to end our day today. So please, Marysue.
So, yes, I'm Marysue Moses, and this is Zoe Berg. She is the director of the Alzheimer's Poetry Project Minnesota. And the gentleman being mic'd at the moment is Rich Reeder. He's a documentary film director. And then we also have Vicki Hooper, who was the project administrator on the documentary, which is part of our presentation. You will be seeing that in a little bit. So, my colleagues and I are so happy to be here. This is always a great day, and this year is no exception. And we are really honored to be the last act on the agenda before your final wrap-up this afternoon. So I'm going to give you a little overview of what we are going to be doing in this session. It's kind of a smorgasbord, and it's going to probably feel very different than most of the things than all of the things that have been done today so far. So, we will be showing you the documentary, as I said, but before we do that, Zoe and I are going to be sharing with you a taste of some of the things that we have done with persons with dementia, using the creative arts to spark their creativity and stimulate their imaginations. Shall we trade off now?
Let's try. I'm worried about the back.
Okay.
We all set with the lavaliers? All set? Thank you.
All right. Okay. So then we will watch the film, and after that we'll have a brief debrief of that. And then we're going to switch gears, and we'll be telling you a real-life story. And it has to do with caregiving. We'll be turning our attention to some of the specific challenges of caregiving itself. Along the way, please feel free to ask questions on the cards, and those will be picked up as you have them ready. There will be probably 2 different times where we will stop and deal with some of those questions. There will also be some times where we ask you questions and we want you to write answers if you want to. Not everybody has to, but if you feel so moved, please do write some of your responses to our questions on the cards so we can give those back to you. All right, so I was in theater before I had a career in healthcare. My mom moved into a memory care community many years ago, and when she did that, I did some research. And I learned through this research that sensory stimulation was a really good way to involve and engage persons with dementia. So I decided I would get myself a trunk that had wheels on it, and I did that. And I filled this trunk with things you could touch and things that had different textures, things that made noise. And I adapted some stories. And the next time I went out to Denver, Colorado to visit my mom, because that's where she was, I brought this trunk with me on the plane. And I did some interactive storytelling with her and, of course, with some of the other residents at her assisted living facility. And it was actually a memory care community. So one of the residents who came to that first presentation had been an actress. And I wish I could remember her name. It drives me nuts that I can't, but I can't. But I do remember that she had played Rosalind in As You Like It. And I'm a big Shakespeare fan, as you'll find out. And so I was very excited about this. She could launch into all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and don't worry, I'm not going to say the whole speech. But she did the first time I mentioned it. And it was so cool to hear her do that. I mean, she played Rosalind. That's not even a Rosalind speech that she recited. And she was up in her 90s, and it was just really wonderful. So when she did that, I thought to myself, well, I need to make up a Shakespeare show. Absolutely. So I went back to Minneapolis and did that. The next time I came out, I did the Shakespeare show with her and with everybody else. And I was thinking to myself, you know, everybody knows some Shakespeare, even if they hate it, you know, and even if, right? And even if they have dementia, it's long-term memory, you know, if they learned it in school or had it drilled into them, you know, or maybe even especially because they hated it. So just be honest now, how many of you in the audience, show of hands, hated Shakespeare in school? I know, it's so prevalent. That's not as bad as I expected to see, but I certainly understand why. I mean, Shakespeare is meant to be experienced, it's meant to be acted, it's not really meant to be read on a page. So the other thing is that so many little bits of Shakespeare stick in our minds, you know, like if I say, to be or not to be, you're going to answer that is the question, exactly. If I say, good night, parting is such sweet sorrow, that I should say good night till it be morrow. Yes, very good. And if I say, the quality of mercy is not strained, it droppeth as the gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath. Yes, I like the gestures you're adding to that. That's great. Gestures are very helpful in learning a little bit of Shakespeare. And I bet you know the names of the plays. You know, Two Gentlemen of, Much Ado About, A Midsummer Night's, All's Well That Ends. Very good. And I bet you, like the memory care residents that I have worked with, can pick out the most important word in a line of Shakespeare without fail. If this is a beautiful line from Romeo and Juliet, it's when Juliet is professing her love for Romeo. She says, "My bounty is as boundless as the sea." My bounty is as boundless as the sea. Let's do that as a call and response. My bounty.
My boundless as the sea.
Okay, that was good. Learned it already. What I mean by that is when I say my bounty and point to me, and then I point to you, you say the same thing. But you learned it already, so we can skip that part. So, anyway, but we might do more, okay? So I bet you can pick out the most important word in that line. What word sticks out? If you had to pick one word that encapsulates the meaning of the line, what word is it? Boundless, right. My residents with dementia got that every time I asked. Here's another line. This is probably not going to be as familiar to you. I'm going to break it up into parts, and we will do the call and response for this one. The care you have of us. The care you have of us. Okay, so think about that line. What one word sticks out more than the others? Care, exactly. Okay, the next part is to mow down thorns that would annoy us. To mow down thorns that would annoy us. What word sticks out in sort of a prickly way? Thorns, yes, exactly. Very good. Last part of the quote is worthy praise.
Is worthy praise.
Is worthy praise. So just 3 words. What word do you think encapsulates the meaning of that little part? Praise. Okay. I've done this with other groups, and they said worthy. And when I first thought about it, I was on the praise side. Now I'm kind of on the worthy side, but now I'm confused because now I don't know. Anyway, I think they're both worthy words, and we don't have to argue about it. But picking out that most important word just helps us get around the meaning. So I'm going to say the whole thing now and see if you can say the whole thing back. The care you have of us to mow down thorns that would annoy us is worthy praise. The care you have of us to mow down thorns that would annoy us is worthy praise. Very nice. What a beautiful quote. This is about caregiving, right? This is what we do for people with dementia. We make things smooth for them. We clear the path. We make it easier. Thank you so much for the work that you do to do this, because that's really what it's all about, to give them a good quality of life and to emphasize their strengths. I think we focus way too much on the deficits and the losses of dementia. It's kind of a trap. I mean, we have to learn about them, we have to deal with them, we have to manage them. But if that's the only thing we focus on, it can really be hard on us and on the person that we're caring for as well. We need to focus on what is left and build on that. And when you think about it, some of the things that actually could be looked at as deficits, in quotes, actually enhance people's ability to be creative. If you think about the lessening of impulse control, well, you never know what's going to come out of their mouths sometimes, right? The less linear thinking, different ideas might pop into their heads than would if they didn't have dementia. The heightened sensitivity to color and texture and sound, the sensitivity to emotions and the environment, and the ability to be in the moment. Very important for creativity. So there's a lot of strengths there. So I just urge all of you in your interactions with the folks that you care for to please put things in people's hands and let them smell things and touch things and taste things and listen to things and look at things that are important to them, that remind them of things that they've done in the past. And also put things in their hands that maybe they've never seen before or that maybe they've forgotten about, because it's so good to let people remember what they've been connected to, but also to give them something new and different, where either way we're stimulating the brain and strengthening those nerve cells. So thank you. I'm going to turn it over now to Zoe Berg.
Thank you, Marysue. Wonderful. Hi, all. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. I love what you just said, all of it. I think of my friend Sandra, who has been teaching visual art at Wilder Adult Day in St. Paul for almost 20 years, and what she said once that has stuck with me forevermore, which is, I want to help people fall in love with themselves again. And I think through art is a really beautiful way to do that. It's so easy to focus on loss, but art can often be a way to create a new sense of identity for older people, for anybody. And everybody is an artist. I don't care what you say about that. Everybody is creative. We're a generative species. You are an artist too, and it doesn't mean you have to call yourself one. But I do like to call the people I work with poets, and the more I do, the readier they are to identify as poets. So activating the senses is one of the essential ingredients in creative connection with people with dementia. It not only helps the old dendrites keep growing, it's part of setting the scene for a creative adventure that you can have together. And you can do that very easily and very simply, and it can just be about moving from room to room with a kind of rhythm or dance. You can wear bright colors, play music to establish a different mood in a usual space. You can try dancing into that space. You can try singing through an activity or a chore that's normally a drag and see what happens for you. You can dance in a wheelchair too, just a little differently. Try looking at visual art, maps, guides, other images together. Examine natural objects and human-made objects, including ones with moving parts. I've really noticed that for people who are mostly post-verbal, something with moving parts can get speech moving like nothing else I've seen. Give your loved one something good to smell, like geranium leaves or a ripe tomato or fresh herbs. I think fresh things are great. Aromatherapy is wonderful. I love that you mentioned that multiple times earlier. So there is a little jar or a votive of rosemary on each of your tables. I'm going to ask you to take that, thank you, smell it, pass it around, take your time with it, and actually touch the herb. Note how the oil sticks on your fingers, and then how you can keep smelling that oil after you've passed the plant along. And just notice what, if any, change you feel as you smell it, or after you smell it. In your body, in your mood. Yeah. If a particular odd thought or memory pops up, just take note of that. So speaking of Shakespeare, does anyone know Ophelia's line from the play Hamlet, thank you, about rosemary? Yes, there's rosemary, that's for remembrance. Shakespeare wrote over 400 years ago, and now, in fact, we do know that rosemary significantly boosts memory and cognitive performance. There are compounds in the oil that act the same way as drugs licensed to treat dementia, causing an increase in a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. And maybe you know this already, but I think it's magical. I tell folks with memory loss that, and they're like, give me that. They would just want to keep sniffing it. I would love to see some sort of experiment with rosemary oil in a diffuser in a particular site, facility, living situation over a long period and see how somebody's cognitive performance increases. So, and it's really important to move. My friends with Kairos Alive, I don't know if you know that organization, check them out online, Kairos, Kairos Alive. They're all about movement, storytelling, and music. If you need to get up right now, if you want to get up and wiggle a little bit, please do. And feel free to do that throughout this particular panel. You have permission to move. It does everything for us from boosting our mood to improving cognitive function. So just stretch. And people who are still for long periods are also not breathing and not getting enough oxygen to the brain. So take another deep breath of the rosemary if you want. Get more oxygen in your brain. And a deep breath. So one of my favorite poets of all time is Lucille Clifton. I like to bring poets on sticks in sometimes to my poetry sessions. And I apologize to Lucille for the flat top there. It's the function of my printer in the image. But Lucille Clifton was a poet who lived from 1936 to 2010. She was Maryland's Poet Laureate from 1974 to 85. And the first author to have 2 books of poetry chosen as finalists for the Pulitzer Prize. She's noted for saying much with very few words. And I have a few poems that I've memorized. They're all very short, including this one by Lucille Clifton. And I wonder if you would speak it with me, doing a little call and response. Are you willing? Yeah? Okay, great. So the first line of the poem is longer than any of the other lines. And I believe it's just a 5-line poem. I'll just read it or recite it myself once, and then we'll do it all together. It's called, Why Some People Be Mad at Me Sometimes. They ask me to remember, but they want me to remember their memories. And I keep on remembering mine. It's like my motto as a person who works with people with dementia. So, Ms. Lucille Clifton, let's do it together. I'll say a line, put out my hands, and please repeat after me. It'll be a thrill to hear this in this many voices. Why some people be mad at me sometimes. Nice. They ask me to remember. But they want me to remember their memories. And I keep on remembering mine. Thank you so much for that. So that's about, I think, in her case, it was about being asked to write a poem for the bicentennial on our happy colonial days, and her response to that request. But for me, it's a very universal poem, too, about respect for the individual story, for the importance of stories, and then about radical listening, about letting go as much as you can of your own anxiety and just being present with somebody and listening to them so carefully that you can repeat back to them what they have said and affirm it. And I've noticed, I've been doing this work for 12, 13, 15 years, I'm losing track, that affirmation of what people have to say through dementia is so significant. So often what is said is considered unacceptable or is kind of brushed aside or is upsetting, and for so many good reasons. But the affirmation has a tremendous positive effect on people. So try repeating and affirming what you're hearing and taking a little trip, take an adventure, go where they go, follow their lead. So I can just go on and on and on. But in our couple remaining minutes, I also want to offer you a Maya Angelou quote. People won't remember what you said, they won't remember what you did, but they will remember how you made them feel. Yeah. So don't worry too much if something you try doesn't work out. Don't worry. Have fun experimenting with creativity. And in that spirit, and in the spirit of some communication, I'm hoping you will take a minute now, turn to somebody you're sitting near, and just ask them, what makes you feel cared for? Listen carefully, note that, repeat it back to them and affirm it, and then swap and do the same. So please take a second to do that. So I have this little red suitcase full of musical instruments that I like to hand out to people. And when everybody's got an instrument in their hand, we practice making noise and then. So, thank you. How was that? Was that good? So, what makes you feel cared for is what I would consider a beautiful question. If you've ever heard of Anne Basting, who wrote the fabulous book Forget Memory and who won a MacArthur Genius Grant for her work with creativity and dementia, who's at the University of Milwaukee, please look up Anne Basting. She's on our resource page. Look up Islands of Milwaukee and Time Slips Creative Storytelling. A beautiful question is a question that does not have a right answer. You can't give a yes or no to it, and it can set your imagination alight. So I also want you to take a minute now and just think of a beautiful question that you might like to ask. You can write it down if you want to. And at the end, when we're gathering questions, I am going to make a brief sprint of a group poem from some of your beautiful questions, since group poem creation is what I do with people with dementia. And then we can read it all together at the end. And now, thank you so much for participating with me in all that. Thanks for being brave and jumping in and doing all that unfamiliar stuff. Now we're going to show you the documentary and you can see some of these techniques in action.
When you hear that word dementia, what do you think about? What comes to your mind first? Unfortunately for many of us, it's images of people looking troubled, lost, and alone. Of course, dementia is challenging, but does the way we think about it make it worse than it needs to be? People living with dementia are more than their deficits. Did you know that word dementia comes from a Latin word meaning out of one's mind? This conjures images of insanity. People with dementia have a chronic disability, yes. They have damage in their brain, yes. But are they insane? Are they mad? No. Well, they may sometimes be mad, as in angry. You would be too if your brain wasn't working the way it was supposed to. The point is, people with dementia still have strengths. They have humor, they have joy, they have long-term memory, and a great capacity for passion. Dr. Jean Cohen's research on aging showed that older adults have untapped stores of creative energy. I believe that focusing on the strengths and skills that people with dementia retain is fundamental to giving them the care they need, the care they deserve. My name is Marysue Moses. I'm the Dimensions Program Coordinator for Ebenezer. Ebenezer is part of the Fairview healthcare system. We've been serving older adults for over 100 years. Ebenezer is now a leader in providing innovative options for senior living, with the emphasis on living well. Before getting into dementia care, I was an actress for many years. Eventually, I started my own theater-based training company. I had been excited about Shakespeare ever since doing Hamlet in high school. When my mother was diagnosed with probable Alzheimer's disease, I got very curious about what was going on with her. And in her very first memory care community, I noticed that there wasn't much going on to engage her. I wanted her to have more to do that would respect her as a whole person, as an adult. That's why I changed careers. I started out in healthcare as an activities coordinator. One of my favorite activities was teaching residents with dementia a few lines of Shakespeare. Some of them actually learned it. When I first joined Ebenezer, I had the chance to see Jeannie Brindley Barnett in action, making music with residents at one of our sites. I also attended a memory care poetry session led by Zoe Berg. Jeannie and Zoe are vibrant, exuberant people, naturally skilled at being in the moment with others. I recognized them as kindred spirits, and I had this idea. What if the three of us joined forces, working together over time at an Ebenezer site to see if we could use Shakespeare, poetry, and music to engage people with dementia, stimulate their creativity, jog their memories, unearth their stories.
Everybody say amen.
Ebenezer's Pillars Memory Care Fund made this project possible. We chose a site that had a memory care community on the first floor and assisted living folks on the second floor. We did sessions with both groups on Fridays over the course of about 6 months. We knew that at the end there'd be some sort of showcase so we could share with residents' family members the kinds of things that we had been up to. All we started with was our chosen theme, love, all kinds. Here's what happened. How do I love thee?
How do I love thee?
Let me count
Let me count
the ways
the ways
I love thee
I love thee
to the depth
to the depth
and the breadth
and the breadth
and the height
and the height
my soul can reach.
my soul can reach.
What else are we thankful for? Vern, what are you thankful for?
Being here and alive.
Being here and alive.
Right.
Being here and alive. And I tell you what, there's a lot to be said for that. Amen. Everybody say amen.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Right on.
Right on.
That's it.
For bounty, we made a big, kind of a big barrel or a big basket of love or produce or whatever you
Love
got.
and produce.
So, love and produce.
Same thing.
I love produce. Okay. So make a big basket when we say my bounty. Go ahead, Bob. My bounty.
My bounty.
My bounty. Good.
My bounty.
My bounty is as what? What's that word? My bounty is as boundless. When I first started working with people with dementia, it didn't take me very long to figure out that when they are really engaged, truly involved in an activity, dementia doesn't matter. You know, it's not a problem for them. It's not a problem for anyone else in the room. I believe passionately that we need to keep giving these folks as many moments as possible where dementia simply doesn't matter.
And then I love the rolling hills. Can you say that? I love the rolling hills. And then let's go to our garden. Oh, hi, Vern. And let's say, I love the flowers, and reach down and pretend you're looking at your flowers. So say that, I love the flowers. And then my favorite flower, I love the daffodils. And then you're going to pick your daffodil, and you're going to sniff it. Oh, we have our Big Ben clock, and it goes like this. Ding, dong, ding, dong. Ding, dong, ding, dong. Everybody do that. Ding, please, dong, ding, dong. Ding, dong, ding, dong. And that's the chime. Many people have that chime on their clocks or in their doorbell, I've even heard. Okay, so here's a good name greeting song that's fun. Each person goes, my name's whatever, and I'll say, my name's Jeannie. And you sing back to me, hello, Jeannie. Now, why do I ask you to do that? It's when I get to know new names. If I sing it, I'm going to remember it better. Why? Because the words are on one side and the music is on the other side in my brain.
My name's Larry.
Thank you, Larry. I know it's a little low for my tenor. Hello, Larry. So if I sing it, I'm going to remember it. I'm going to remember what I got to get at Target or the grocery store. Well, unless it's more than 7 items. But, you know, if I sing it, I usually can call it back. So singing is good for you, okay? What I find, too, those with dementia can learn new skills. People who say they can't, that is totally wrong. Everything is not just experiential. It is sequential, so that from when we've seen them, the growth carries over. My name's Joan. I tell you, are you hearing that beautiful hum? And we sing back, hello, Joan. Drum roll, Miss Jean. My name's Jean. Ready? My name's Jean. Hello, Jean. We got 2 more. Are you ready for your drum roll? Everybody give them a drum roll. Bob?
Yes.
My name's Bob. Here we go.
My name's Bob.
Beautiful. Hello, Bob. But to be in the presence of those who are grateful for every day that they wake up, and for their sharing, they are teaching me, and I want to keep learning.
To be or not to be, that is a question. Nor nobler to whatever.
Just keep going, keep going.
To be.
To be or not to be. Now, what if the question was to love or not to love? What would your answer be?
Love.
Love, absolutely. Very good. Okay. How about something else from Shakespeare? Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou? Oh, God. What does she say? Wherefore art thou?
Romeo.
Romeo, there you go.
I had an old one.
You had an old what?
Old one.
Yeah.
Valley, they say you are leaving.
Oh, that song.
Not haste your bright eyes and sweet smile, for they say you are taking the sunshine that brightened our life for a while.
It droppeth as the gentle rain from
The heavens.
from the heavens
Yep.
upon the place
Just keep it going.
beneath.
We need some rain for the
more rain.
crops.
Yeah. He that is
He that is
thy friend indeed.
thy friend indeed.
He will help thee.
He will help thee.
In thy need.
In thy need.
Good. Clap. My bounty.
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 My bounty
Is as boundless.
is as boundless
As the
Sea.
sea. Yes.
As the
Remember we did
sea.
my.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
It is
Oh.
like
It does sound like that.
Ah,
It's over the ocean.
that's too low. Sorry. My body lies over the ocean. My body lies over the sea.
Where are we?
My
My body.
oh, I see.
Here we go. Sway.
Bring back, bring back, oh, bring back my body to me, to me. Bring back, oh, bring back my body to me.
My bounty is.
I love that we all support each other so much and trust each other that we have to move when they're ready to move onto whatever it is. Right. So, I mean, if they start singing Love Me Tender and we had planned on, right, we go with the flow. Or
My Bonnie out of my
Or
bounty.
My Bonnie.
Yeah. Which was cool because I had that in my head this past week. I was thinking, oh, maybe that would be a song that we could tie in, and then they just tied it in. There he is, William Shakespeare. Yes. Clarence? Here he is. Ilsa? Shakespeare's back. Shakespeare is back for Judy and Anne and Jerry and Jean and Joan and Elsie and Zoe. Hi. And Jeannie.
Hello, Willie boy.
And Willie boy.
Willie boy.
Go ahead, Jean.
Romeo, Romeo.
Lend me your ears. Come to bury Caesar, not to praise him.
Woo.
Evil that men do lives after them. The good is oft interred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar.
Wow. Wow. Very nice. Very, very nice. But anyway, for today, I'm going to be Puck and I'm going to do it. So I'm going to pour the liquor of it in her eye while she's sleeping, and she goes to sleep. And then we've got Clarence over here, and he's going to be this character named Bottom, who is transformed. His head is transformed into the head of a donkey. All right? Can you hang on to this all right without it bothering you? All right. So here's what happens. Clarence, you're going to say, hee-haw, like a donkey. Can you do that?
Hee-haw.
Very good.
All right. So when he does that again, you're going to read this line.
Yes, what angel wakes me from my flowery bed?
Hee-haw.
That's fine. Just do it whenever you feel like it.
What angel wakes me from my flowery bed? Oh, speak again, bright angel.
Give me another hee-haw. Have you got another one? Give me a hee-haw.
Another hee-haw?
Yep.
Hee-haw.
Just keep
Mine ear is much enamoured of thy voice. So is mine eye enthralled to thy shape, and thy virtues perforce doth move me. On the first view to say, to swear, I love thee.
So where is love? That's my question for you, for our poetry portion of today.
In my heart.
Where is love? In my heart, Ms. Arlene.
I love love.
I love love. I love love. Beautiful. Where is love? In my heart. I love love.
In families.
In families.
Yep.
Lovely. Where is love? In families. Anything else you want to say about that, Jean? Can't think. Can't think, but in families is perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Where is love? In families. How about Ms. Lois? May I ask you, where is love?
Love is with his partner.
Oh, love is
It's
with
with your partner.
With your partner.
Partner.
Beautiful. Love is with your partner. I love love. Love is in families.
In babies.
Love is with your partner in babies. Yeah.
And love is in God.
And love is in God. There's
love
so
God.
much. Love is in God. Love is in baby. I love that you went from babies to God. Love is in babies. Love is in God.
Yeah.
Larry, may I ask you, where is love?
Down there.
Oh, where's love?
Good answer, Larry.
Right there. Please.
So here we go. Where is love? Back up. Does it fall from skies above? Back up. Is it underneath a willow tree? Back up. That I've been dreaming of.
You never know what is going to really spark for somebody. Music just seems to be generally the magic key, and I think that's why poetry can be successful, is the musical aspect of poetry and the tendency that people have to remember, the rhythmic nature of a poem.
Where is love? Everywhere. Oh, I love it. Gotta write that down. Where is love? Where is love? Everywhere.
When you're interacting with folks with dementia, remember there's a whole human being in there. Just because you can't see the whole person doesn't mean they're gone. The person isn't absent. There's a lot going on in there. And it's really exciting to connect with somebody and start to get a clue about what's going on.
So 400 years ago, Shakespeare knew that rosemary was good for the memory. And now we know that when you sniff it, it increases your powers of memory by 75%. It's like a magic potion. Mr. Jerry. Hi there. Can I give you something to smell?
Yes.
What do you think?
I don't know.
Don't know? Does it smell good?
Yeah, but again, don't tell what it is.
Can't tell what it is. Anybody know what this is?
Rosemary.
Rosemary, which is for remembrance.
High fives. Look at those high fives.
Poetry it's kind of a scary word to them. They don't think they know it. They don't think they can do it. And I think by you guys just being so approachable, Marysue, Zoe, and Jeannie with the music, it just makes them feel comfortable, and then they're able to express more of their emotions and things that they might not say every day to people, and kind of tug at their heartstrings a little for some of the subjects that are touchy, because a lot of them have experienced a lot of loss and love, and so there's a lot of happiness, but there's the sadness too.
Where is love? Everywhere. Where is everywhere? That's a good question. Where is love, Betty, to you?
Well, it has to be somewhere. You have to be able to find it, to see it. It's a dumb answer.
Not at all, not at all. You have to be able to find it, to see it. Where do you see it when you imagine it?
Love is at first sight.
Ooh, love is at first sight.
Clarence, you are on a roll today.
He's on
you
fire.
You are rocking. You are on fire.
Love is at first sight. Do you want to say anything more about that?
Well, I probably found love very easily. I was working at Armour's, and a young fellow come up to me and says, "Say, you were in the Army, and I heard you was a cook." I said, "Yes."
You know, I've got a room and I don't know how to boil water. Well, it's just, I live at the YMCA, but I could probably teach you how to cook a little bit. Well, here comes a girl down the steps.
Here comes a girl down the steps.
What a girl.
What a girl!
What a girl!
How does a person get into this room? Well, she says, I used to live down there, and I forgot to give the key back. I'll run upstairs, and I'll get you a key. And you can keep it, because I should have returned it. Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
Was that the beginning?
There is a girl.
There is a
There
girl.
is a girl.
You know what? I married her.
You know what? I married her.
Yay.
Beautiful. Wow. Love at first sight. What a story. That's fantastic. Right on, Clarence.
Well, in terms of the success we've had here in the United States in engaging persons with memory loss in meaningful activity can be gauged in a couple of different ways. I would say over the past couple of decades, we've improved markedly in this regard to really identify and treat memory loss not so much through a biomedical lens, which is one that focuses on what's lost when someone, say, is diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease or related dementia, but instead focusing on what do people with memory loss still do? What do they still want to do? How are they still people and persons? And then orienting and devising and developing care within that philosophical framework. Another way to think of why arts activities are meaningful is that they oftentimes provide a very useful way to engage not only the person with memory loss, but then the people that are caring for the person with memory loss.
Don't go strolling down Lover's Lane with anyone else but me. Anyone else but me. Anyone else but me. No, no, no. Today we're celebrating work and play and fun that we have been doing together with all of the bards of Red Rock.
Who's this guy again? William who? Shakespeare. Thank you, Keith. And he wrote plays like Romeo and Juliet. Antony and Midsummer Night's Dream. The Taming of the Shrew. All's Well That Ends Well. Yes, very good. La 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 la. Good. Vern. Va 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 va. Very nice. Very nice.
Because we couldn't collect all the fabulous poems and fabulous songs that we've created, that you've created in this book, we also have a fun thing that we're doing with snippets. Beautiful lines, funny lines, best lines from our poems and songs.
Love of life, lust for life, Van Gogh. That's why he painted.
It's a wonderful world.
I carry in my heart love for the next person.
Let's do one more song with our drums, okay? Because you just got started. So I'm going to play The Beautiful Love is a Many Splendored Thing. And here's the pattern I would like for you to play. 1, 2, cha-cha-cha. 1, 2, cha-cha-cha. Now, you can change it up if you want to, but if you can do that on your drums, can you try that? And you can wiggle your toes, too. And you can do a dance.
Nice. All right, rhythm.
All right, Bob. We need you.
I see those toes tapping. Wanna play the drum for this, Gene?
When I hear the word dementia,
No, you go ahead.
this is what I think about.
There you go.
Ready to dance?
Cha-cha-cha. Woo! Can Jerry dance the cha-cha with you?
do you imagine might go in a little pair of hands like that?
Oh, they give us so much.
They give us so much
in this life of ours.
In this life of ours.
We have our health, we have our food, we have so much to be thankful for.
We have our health, we have our food, we have so much to be thankful for.
It's a wonderful world.
It's a wonderful world.
Thank you.
Good night, Irene. Irene. Oh, that's it. Good night. That's it. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dreams. Saturday night I got married. Me and my wife settled down. Me and my wife are parted. Gonna take a walk downtown. Irene, good night. Woo! Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in. Is there another verse? Oh, yeah. I didn't know if there was another verse. Yodel lady, lady, hoodle lady, lady, hoodle lady, hoodle, hoodle lady, and hoodle lady, hoodle. There we go. Irene, good night. Irene, good night.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was really fun to watch the sea of people react to the film. It was really a great show. we don't often get to do that, so thanks. Because we are a little short on time, I'm just going to kind of keep going here. Please feel free to, any reactions you have to the film that you want to share, please write them on cards. We'd love to read them. But I want to make sure we get in this next big chunk of what we have to share with you. So the making of this documentary was interrupted when our director, Rich, suffered a stroke before the film was finished. And we think the story of how we completed the project is important to share with you today. It's a story of patience
and recovery,
fear,
and frustration,
friendship,
support, and creativity. June 2017, Rich and his longtime partner, Vicki, are living in Santa Monica, California.
Rich visits Minneapolis monthly to see his grandchildren and to work on our film. After 9 months of filming and editing, we show a rough cut to an audience of residents who participated. Our goal is to finalize the film before a premiere in November. We schedule a meeting for August 12th to identify next steps. That scheduled meeting never happened.
At 9:30 a.m. on August 10th, Rich's daughter Sarah notices that Rich is unable to speak coherently. She takes him to the emergency room and calls Vicki.
I fly to Minneapolis on the first available flight. We learn that Rich has suffered a stroke and there's bleeding in the brain.
Heck, I thought everything was going just fine that morning. It was a nice day. I had gotten down 4 flights of stairs from the apartment where I was living, and I finally located my car, which I couldn't find every day. Was looking forward to my connecting with the grandchildren. Their names are Ella and George. We were going to go to the splash pool that morning. I also was thinking about meeting with this young lady next door, Marysue, that Saturday. I was surprised with a jolt from my daughter, Sarah. She said, "Come on, Dad, we're going to the hospital right now."
When I arrive, Rich is in the ICU. He's stable by this time, and he's responsive, but his words don't make much sense. Nurses bombard him hourly with cognitive check-in questions.
What's your name?
Do you know where you are?
When's your birthday?
Rich smiles, but he doesn't respond. The bleed is in the left side of the brain, which affects speech and memory. The speech therapist says he has aphasia. Though a few words come out occasionally, Rich can't speak in comprehensible sentences. We don't know if he doesn't understand or if he just can't communicate.
After 3 days in the ICU, Rich moves to a regular hospital room.
He's mostly in good spirits, except when he's not. And he's always glad to see me and other family members who visit daily, but he doesn't know names. Who's Sarah, his daughter? Who's Dave, his brother? But he remembers the faces. He can't yet have a conversation, but he's definitely glad to see people, unless he's sleeping, which they say is good for healing the brain. What does he want to eat? He can't say. Maybe we can watch a movie, but he can't stay focused long enough. Will he ever be able to watch a movie again? He can't read. I cry when I eventually cancel his New Yorker subscription. Will he ever be able to read again?
The hospital stay is a real blur. I really only recall what I've been told in the next 2 weeks.
I visit Rich and Vicki in the hospital. I was nervous. I mean, dementia is my field. I know that vascular dementia can result from a stroke. I wonder, will Rich know me? Will he seem like himself? Well, Rich recognizes me for sure, although he isn't too chatty. The greatest thing, though, is that his quirky sense of humor is still there, despite the fact that he's barely speaking. Watching Vicki interact with him so skillfully, so cheerfully, and normally with him was a master class in caregiving. I was thoroughly ashamed that I had doubted for a second that Rich wouldn't still be himself.
After 2 weeks in the hospital, Rich transitions to an acute rehab program. He excels in physical therapy and improves in occupational and speech therapy. He can follow a single command like go to the kitchen, but can't yet follow a double command like go to the kitchen and find the toaster. The speech exercises are grueling and frustrating, but he regains a few more words.
I don't remember how I got to rehab. I do remember being in a place late at night, in the middle of the night, where they ran all kinds of lights up through the room, so I couldn't sleep. Now, I do remember the nice therapist walking down the hall, and all the nurses would give me a big smile and walk by. That was really swell. The whole thing was like being in a play or a film, you know? I was getting a lot of attention, and I was spoiled. Things were going just fine. What was everyone else so concerned about?
After 2 weeks of acute rehab, Rich improves enough that he and Vicki are told he can go home.
Hey, we can go home now.
But I'm terrified. I can't imagine being home with him on my own. I pushed for more time in rehab, but there's nothing I can do. We're going home. Except we don't have a home yet here. I need to find us a place to live fast.
Mid-September, Rich and Vicki move to a furnished rental in Minneapolis. The home health folks say, don't leave Rich alone for more than 10 minutes, and definitely don't leave him alone in the kitchen. He'll start a fire or cut himself. No stove, no knives, no microwave.
I'm overwhelmed. I live day by day. I go for a walk one day, but the next day the therapist tells me that I can leave Rich alone long enough to get the mail, but not long enough to go for a walk. I manage his medication, I schedule doctor and therapy appointments, and I take care of financials. I get friends to stay with him when I go grocery shopping.
We're staying in an unfamiliar place, but I'm told that the place where we're living is still labeled as the Idle Hospital. That's where my dad was when he was 35 years old in the middle of this building. Somehow this makes me feel connected.
Rich starts to read the newspaper. He watches some TV, but he doesn't have enough attention span to enjoy a film yet. He still has trouble finding words, so Vicki joins him for visits with friends to translate.
I always feel so good and appreciative when people will come in and talk, you know? I just It just seems so fine and good to connect with people and let them know how much appreciative they are and how friendship comes to me.
Mid-October, Rich and Vicki move into a permanent home.
By the end of each day, I'm so tired. The move was crazy and communicating with Rich is exhausting. He's starting to send texts, but they're indecipherable. I know his close friends and family love to hear from him, but I'll only let him send notes to a few people because I feel like for some, getting the discombobulated text would be too confusing.
Early November, Rich is doing really well.
I'm so thankful. I'm not sure how much more comprehension and language he'll regain, but if this is as good as it gets, I can work with that. Our lives will change, but when others have to watch their loved ones decline, I get to see improvement. He still has trouble finding words, but with the patience of his company, he's fine with a one-on-one conversation.
You know, I want to get back to the things I used to do, particularly working on film projects, but I'm not quite sure how you do that. Vic tells me I need to be patient, and I feel, well, I'll hold off for a while.
December, Rich is much improved. He is reading a little more, watching films, and visiting with friends on his own. He's sending emails and texts and even writing holiday and thank you cards.
I'm revved up to get back on the Dementia film project. I'm really ready.
But I think it's too soon for Rich to start working on the film. He can't even send an understandable email or remember to look at the calendar for doctor's appointments. The cards he's writing are really sweet, but kind of illegible. How can he work on a film project? I don't want to discourage him, but I don't want him to fail. I hold him off as long as possible.
January 2018.
Rich and I start meeting regularly for coffee to talk through our priorities for finishing the film.
Hey, this is cool. It feels so good, and I'm revved up to get back at the Dementia project. I'm doing something worthwhile again.
Rich is corresponding with Marysue about the project. He's setting up the meetings, and he seems to be getting the work done. I can tell he's really enthused, and it must be going okay. I'm trusting his judgment.
April 2018.
Rich and I always have a great time when we're meeting. You know, we're friends, but I'm realizing he's not tracking as well as I thought he was.
May 2018.
It feels like we're starting over every time we meet. Rich doesn't seem to follow up on stuff we had decided upon the last time. His emails are very confusing. We're spinning our wheels. I'm not sure what to do. I don't have the skills needed to find the footage we need or to communicate with the editor about what we want to cut. And I'm really busy with work. I'm frustrated, I'm a little impatient, and I bet he's picking up on that.
Rich comes home after a meeting with Marysue and collapses on the couch.
I am so damn upset because Marysue was really disappointed. I'd done all this stuff and it wasn't what she wanted, and I don't even know what to do now.
It's hard to see him so distraught. What if he can't finish the film? How do I even bring this up? It would devastate him. I know what handing it off would do to him emotionally. It would feel like a huge defeat. On the other hand, Marysue's a good friend and a client, and he's responsible to her. It would be better if he came to her with a solution rather than having to wait till she's at the end of the rope and has to bring it up to him.
Rich and Vicki go for a walk around one of the Minneapolis lakes.
It seems so good to be outside again. It's finally spring. Stuff is actually growing. It seems like every year we forget that winter actually does go away.
Hey, it is so great. Can you hear those birdies? My gosh, that's great. That is cool. I haven't heard that in a long time, dear.
That is really nice.
Yeah.
How are you doing? Does it feel okay to be walking?
Actually, it feels great again. I've been out walking. I haven't been out walking for a long time, and I hope I'm not slowing you down, dear.
Not at all. It's just good to be out walking.
You're telling me.
Okay, Rich.
Yeah.
Let's just stop for a second, okay?
Okay.
I need to ask you something.
Okay.
What if you can't finish the film?
Can't finish it. I hadn't really thought about that before. I didn't know I couldn't finish it.
I know. But what if you can't? Marysue's such a good friend. She's been so patient, and I know she really cares about you. I hate to say it, but it's likely that she's thought of this scenario.
But did she say that? I mean, she's never said anything to me about my not finishing this film.
But she saw you in the hospital, and you hardly had any words. We didn't know how much you'd get back.
Thought I was doing better.
You are doing better. I can't believe how much better you're doing.
No. Thanks.
But this film thing, it's different. It's hard work, and you kind of got to take it one step at a time. And it might be a while before you actually get there. How long do you think Marysue will wait?
Hey, maybe I should just ask her.
Her company put a lot of money into this, and she ultimately has the responsibility to finish the film. You should at least have a conversation with her. If you bring it up first, it won't force her into a potentially uncomfortable situation.
She's been such a good friend, you know, and I don't want to jeopardize our relationship.
Any thoughts about who could step in to help?
Mary Jo, or, how about Martha? Or I know who could do it. Elena probably could.
Wow. Yeah. Those are really good ideas. But they all have kind of totally different skill sets. And which are the skill sets that you need right now? It seems like you kind of need to sort out what's left to do.
Yeah.
And then you can figure out what you can do yourself. And then we can determine what you need help on and who would be the best to finish it. Can you do that?
You know, I'm not sure.
Well, let me just throw this out.
Okay.
What if I come to the meeting with you and Marysue, and then maybe I can help determine where the gaps are, and then together we can work to see what else needs to be done.
That is a great idea. Thank you.
We're going to make this work.
All right. The end.
That's the reason we got it done. Standing right over there.
A team. It's a team.
Okay, so just some things to think about that we hope that that little scene brought up. How do you know when to step in and help? And how do you know when to step back? If any of you have some brilliant insight on that, please write it on the card. How do you promote independence? And how do you promote creativity? And how do you take care of yourself through it all? I do want to point out the handout that we have here. It's got some ideas for taking care of yourself, 50 ways to take a break. Zoe had that and wanted to put it on the handout we have for you. There's also some books and films, including the From the Valley of the Heart documentary, which is available on YouTube forever. So you can just go there and watch it any old time you like. There was a question that came up about, are there any good books or DVDs explaining dementia and Alzheimer's to children or teens? The answer is an emphatic yes. I don't have them in my brain off the top of my head. If you want to email me, I'm sure I can come up with some. My email is on the handout. You could also just get in touch with the Alzheimer's Association. I'm sure they have a book list. Any other ideas on that? Okay. Do you want to address the question about creativity that came in?
Yeah.
And if there's other questions, we're happy to take them now.
More questions coming up? Great. When inviting someone to a creative opportunity, how do you get past the response, "I can't"? What a great question. I think that happens all the time. So in an elder living facility situation, I can often enlist some friends to get their friends to come. But when you're doing this one-on-one in a caregiver situation, I say do what you can to, again, set the scene for something fun, but not intimidating. Just something, create an inviting atmosphere. However you do that, applicable to the person that you're caring for. But then also if somebody says, "I can't," I have heard some teaching artists say, "I just want you to try," or "just try with me. You don't have to do it any particular way." And there's another phrase I really love, which is from Jeannie Brindley Barnett. She says, "There's no wrong in this room. There's no wrong in this room." So I love to repeat that and just take the pressure off. It's fun. And there's no particular product that you're looking for in these activities. It's about enjoying the process and going on the journey. So I think if you can exude that somehow, it can really help. And then sometimes people just refuse.
It's part of the removing the thorns that are annoying. So I actually didn't hear the first part of what you said, so I hope I'm not repeating it. But you don't go in and announce, "We're going to be creative now. We're going to draw a picture. We're going to make something that's really fantastic." No, you kind of sweep them along. I mean, we just sort of swept them into the Shakespeare and swept them into the different things that we were doing in the film.
Oh, and if people are scared of the word poetry, which I know is very common, and you want to try and create a poem with somebody, talk about stories. You can call it storytelling.
Here's one for you, Zoe. Where did the claims about rosemary come from? What studies or research supports this?
This is a very good question. I'm sorry I don't have footnotes here in a presentation, but there are numerous articles online about rosemary that you can look up. There was actually the quote about acetylcholine that I used when I was speaking earlier is from a BBC study, I believe. So check it out.
Here's one. Okay, other side first. Any suggestions to advocate for creative outlet/opportunities that are criticized by family members and underfunded or not supported by management? Activity personnel end up donating supplies and volunteering prep time if they want to provide meaningful activity. Well, one thing you might do, unless you want to jump in first, show them the video. What I'm starting to do at Ebenezer is to do some family and actually professional presentations or presentations for professionals as well that is about dementia and creativity and showing the video and doing some of this interactive stuff with those folks so they can see the impact and see those memories that were sparked that might not have ever come out of Clarence or whoever. And then the skills that people like Jean had who already knew all that Shakespeare. I can't take any credit at all for teaching that to her. She just had it. But showing examples, I don't know, certain people might be impressed by the statistics. If you look at Dr. Jean Cohen's work, you'll find lots of evidence for better health and less medications and better quality of life when people are involved in the creative arts.
And it's interesting that, in certain circumstances, family members, staff, volunteers might have a prejudice against a particular art form, and that will get communicated to their loved ones, and it's just something to try and work through. And if you don't enjoy it yourself, of course, it's going to be hard to bring somebody into the activity. So try something that you are interested in, and pulling somebody along with that. Who wrote Islands of Milwaukee? Good question. So Islands of Milwaukee is a website, islandsofmilwaukee.org, I think. And that is Ann Basting, who started the Time Slips storytelling process, established this website, and it's got a lot of beautiful questions on it and descriptions of some amazing community projects done in Milwaukee centered on these beautiful questions, which were delivered to people with their Meals on Wheels meals. And then they were invited to either write a response, which would get picked up the next time, or call in and record their response on a special phone line to beautiful questions. All sorts of wonderful projects on that website.
Okay, I think we could do the poem.
Okay.
So we've got quite a few responses to what would be a beautiful question, and then a couple other things that aren't exactly questions, but I think they would fit in with this. So how do you want to do this? Do you want...
I think I just left this for no reason, and that's okay. I think what I'd like to do is just read these cards with these beautiful questions from you in the order. You have more?
I've got a few more.
Okay, great. Yeah. All right. I'll just read these and you can hear them all. And I will type them up in poem form and send them to our organizers, and then they will send the poem out to you. And I guarantee this will be beautiful. What is a favorite memory of yours from childhood? What makes you feel most like yourself? When are you coming to see me, Grandma? What can we celebrate today? What makes you smile? In what ways can we feel we are seen? Does the sun shine brightly every night? What makes you laugh? And then the person wrote, that gut giggle, laugh like a baby. What makes your day special? How can I keep from singing? Is beauty love? Why every humankind should genuinely care for every humankind? What is your challenge for today? A beautiful sunrise or a beautiful sunset? Which do you love most? What makes you laugh your head off? What do you think about when you look at the night sky and the stars? What makes your heart sing? Tell it about an adventure that thrilled you. What was an exciting experience? What do you like to make? And then, we got a couple more. You are all beautiful, are you not? What do the flowers need to be happy? Does my fish know what yellow is? Yay! And what makes your heart sing? Beautiful, beautiful all. There are a couple other comments, things I think that bring people joy. Grandchildren saying I love you. Legally blind husband saying I love you and thank you for helping me. Growing old is not easy. Please forgive your parents. Let them go in peace. How lovely. Thank you. Thank you all. I'll type these up for you.
Everyone, I think we have 5 minutes. You have time to address a couple more questions if you'd like.
We could, but are there more?
Do you have them on your cards, or?
I think we're out of cards.
Oh, okay.
We're out of cards, but
no. Here we go.
You know, we could certainly. Oh, there's one.
Oh, we got more. All right.
Okay.
Get them myself.
Yep. Let's go ahead and address. Yeah, probably time for 1 to 2 more, I think.
The card collectors are done. They're taking a break. Okay. Oh, they're just blank.
Oh, okay.
Anything?
Okay, Dr. Rosalie Kane. Wait. I have to give you the mic. Okay, and ask this. Let's close it up with this.
Okay, well, the question I have, I resonate to those songs. It's just wonderful, and the film is wonderful. Have you taken it into various cross-cultural directions, other countries, other languages? I don't know, does everybody do You Are My Sunshine and Red River Valley, or what else do you do?
Great question.
That's such a great question. I think we respond, the point is to respond to the people that you're with and, go with the music that they love. Bring them poetry that they may have learned as kids, but also poetry that might interest them in this phase of life. I try and bring poetry and music and visual art from artists and musicians and poets from around the world, from different eras. I think people can still learn with dementia, and it's important to remember that too.
Your question makes me think of the poem that was done at Ebenezer Care Center, and the gentleman from Trinidad.
Yeah.
I don't know, it just made me think of he talked, I don't remember the lines, maybe you do. Do you remember any of the lines that he contributed to that poem? But what was the subject of the poem? It was like, what, do you remember the name of it?
I can't remember which poem you're talking about.
Oh, well, should have brought it.
But, you know, when, for instance, you choose a subject to talk about, like music, almost everybody can talk about music they love. And for Mr. Albert Venus at the Ebenezer Care Center, it's calypso. And he played steel drums, and he talked about playing steel drums for 2 days at Carnival, starting when he was like 12 years old, and how all these people would just be raving drunk, but he wouldn't take a drink because he wanted to play the steel drums for the full 2 days. And the story just, you know, it just expanded. When we talked about birds, you know, if you were a bird, where would you fly? So I fly to the mango tree.
It was about where are you from?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and he was, I'm from Trinidad, and I'm from the drums, and and everybody was, it was a wonderful, wonderful
and from
poem.
teaching my nephew to fish, and yeah. I think one thing that's interesting to me when I got started doing this work in the mid-2000s, Gary Glazner, my mentor who started the International Poetry Project, said, you know, bring in poems that people may have learned as children, but that our picture of that really wasn't taking into account a very diverse group of people. He was talking about people who learned Longfellow in school. And as generations change and shift, it's interesting to see a lot of people in their 60s, for instance, didn't have to memorize poems in school. So I kind of love that. It gives me more freedom to bring in non-classic stuff. Yeah, but.
Okay.
Well, join me, everyone, in thanking. What a wonderful way to end the day. Thank you so much, everybody. Marysue, Zoe, all of you, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you all.